What's going on, guys? My name is Nick Saka, and in today's video I'm going to give you guys tips on how to pass the property and casualty test using Kaplan. And a little bit about myself. I started my insurance journey about 5 years ago in 2016, where I came from the banking industry, knew nothing about insurance. Pretty much, probably, if you're watching this video, you probably know nothing about insurance as well. But congratulations to you, because you are probably making a great move to getting in the insurance industry. And it all starts with passing this test right here, the property and casualty test. A little bit about myself. I started in 2016, where I had to get my property and casualty as well as my life and health license, and I did it all using Kaplan. If I'm being honest, it took me 2 times to pass my property and casualty test, and it took me 3 times to pass my life and health. However, I think that if you put in the work, you will be able to pass this test, because later down the line, when when I needed to get my Series 6 and 63, it helped me. I made it a way bigger focus, and because I focused more in on and taking it super seriously, I was able to pass those tests, which are way harder in my opinion. Not in my opinion, they're just way harder. I was able to pass those 2 tests in my first 2 shots. My Series 6, I passed my first shot. My Series 63, it took me 2 times. And so I say that because if you put in the work on this test, you should be able to pass. And I've also had dozens of employees that I have hired, and I make them all go through Kaplan. And what we're going to go over today is what I go over with every new hire, and how I prep them for the exam, how to navigate Kaplan. And hopefully with these tips, you should be able to pass your first shot. And so do me a favor, if you get some value out of this video, smash the like button. It'll only take a second, and it's going to help me grow this channel. Subscribe, because I talk all things insurance, entrepreneurship, and self-development. Be sure to follow me on all my social media platforms as well, where I drop all sorts of crazy and funny insurance and self-development related content. All right, so let's get into it. So hopefully you've already enrolled into Kaplan for your property and casualty test. I am logged in here under one of my most recent employees that was able to pass his test on his first shot. Thank you, God. And so let's get into it. So this is the main screen. The main screen right here, as you can see, it is broken down. There are a handful of different icons on the screen. You are not going to use half of them. That's the first and foremost. What I would tell you, you're not going to use half of these icons, which should make it easier. And I will tell you that this property and casualty certification exam right here, this right here is what you are going to have to pass in order to generate this certificate right here. You're going to have to at least pass this portion with a 70% in order to generate that certificate. And what I would tell you, that in most states, you're going to have to get an 80% in the in-person exam. And so if you're preparing for this exam and you're preparing to pass it, you might as well pass this property and casualty certification exam, because one, it's a little bit easier because it only requires a 70%. The real exam requires an 80%, and in most states. And once you have this certificate, you're going to have to send that certificate along with the past results, along with some fingerprints, in order to apply for your insurance property and casualty license. And so you're going to need to pass this anyway. So my advice to you is, as this is like the final boss. This is the final boss of the study guide and this whole Kaplan course, that you might as well be able to pass this in order to generate that certificate, so that way you're ready for the real exam. And of course, it's not going to give you the answers, and so you're going to want to do as many practice exams and studying as possible to be able to pass this your first shot, and not be dumbfounded as to why you're not passing it. It is going to tell you what you score if you miss it, and so hopefully that will help you. That should be the final thing, that your final goal in this whole Kaplan course is to be able to pass that certification exam. Okay, there's a study calendar, there's a pre-study assessment. You're not really going to use this, at least we don't. Updates, you're not going to use this. You're not going to use this state exam outline. Now this prepare portion of it is the property and casualty online course. This is where it breaks down all of the modules on everything that's going to be on the test, okay? Now, you are going to have to go through all these at some point because this breaks down in detail. This is the study guide. This is the basic module, and it talks about all things from workers' comp and farm insurance and the basics of home and auto. And what I'll tell you guys is that you may or may not use half of this stuff in the real world. This is just a formality. It's just like high school and college. You're not going to use half that stuff in the real world. And so just understand that. Don't get overwhelmed and be like, "Ooh, maybe the insurance industry is not for me." It probably still is for you. You're just going to have to pass this test, and that's what's going to prepare you. Now, one of the things I do want to go over with you is I have asked multiple employees what has helped them pass the test and what's helpful in these study guides. And what I'll tell you is that the cram sheets right here, there's going to be an introduction. There's going to be all the modules for this particular section. There's going to be a quiz at the end of every section. Of course, you're going to want to go through all that. An employee told me that the most helpful aspect of the entire modules is the cram sheet. And so as you go into every single cram sheet, it's going to break down the cliff notes of that entire section. And so, that's very valuable information because, it just kind of sums it down. If you're a simple person like myself, I just like to know give me just the Cliff Notes version of everything. And so that's going to help me better understand the practice quizzes and the practice exams. And so it's just kind of like it's all broken down in one particular section. So definitely use the cram sheets, in my opinion. And that's coming from, multiple employees that told me that that was the most helpful part of that. Now, you're going to have to go through all these modules in order to have a basic understanding of the insurance industry, or the basic understanding of, not the insurance industry, but the property and casualty aspect of the insurance industry. And make sure that you go through that so that way you understand it. However, if you're like me, you're going to want to, I like to reverse engineer everything. So I like to do practice exams first and truly understand what's going to be on the exam before I go through the modules. I like to just see what's on the test first and do a couple test runs and fail my first couple of, just you can go on there and honestly just guess with these practice exams, and just to get your basic understanding of how the questions are worded and how they're going to appear on the actual test, and then go back into the modules and then learn from the modules. That's how I learn. I like to reverse engineer everything. You might be different, okay? Now, there's this state regulations required study part right here, and you're going to need to go through this. It's a giant PowerPoint that it's a lot of pages. It's a lot of pages. We're talking like 100 pages, and if you look at this, it's kind of broken down like your old biology class or your geology class, where it's like, if you remember, I'm not sure how old you guys are watching this, but back in my day, it was broken down like this in our science classes, where it's a little PDF on the left and then a little note section on the right. Now, you don't have to go through every single one of these pages. I think that that's just going to be a waste of time. How I would navigate through this is at the very end of the what's this called? The Property and Casualty State Supplement PDF. Go to the very end, and there is going to be a practice exam here. What I would recommend is that you print this portion out, and you take this and you, so for instance, question number 5 says, which of these insurance professionals investigates or settles a claim for a fee or a commission? Adjuster, broker, solicitor, bail agent. If you want to find the right answer to this question, I would control find, do the PDF. Let's see here, is it working? Control find, or command find if you're on a Mac. Command find and look up adjuster in the PDF. If you look here, there's 18 sections where adjuster comes up in this document, and you can get a basic understanding and try to find out the answer right then and there. And that's how I would go about answering every single one of these questions. So that way you don't have to go through every single portion, every single slide. I think it's overkill. But if you want to just get a basic understanding, take this practice exam, search for the answers, and that way it sticks with you a little bit better, and that way you have an understanding of the questions being asked. And of course, the very end of it, it's going to give you the answers anyway, so you can cross-reference your work, okay? Again, I wouldn't go through every single page on this PDF. I would just do the practice exam at the very end, and I would search every answer, and then that way it sticks. And and I would also tell you, let's go back to the main page here. Go back to, if you go back here, so this is where the PDF was. What I would tell you guys is that when you go through the practice exam, so the QBank, which is the next thing I'm getting ready to talk about, the most important part, when you go through QBank, these practice exams, the certification exam, all of this is going to embody or incorporate this PDF right here. So, as long as you take these practice exams, you're going to have a basic understanding of this as well. But this is definitely a part of the test, so you're going to need to understand this PDF as well. I highly recommend going through that particular practice exam that's listed on that PDF. Okay? Now, the most important part, in my opinion, the most important aspect of this entire study guide, in my opinion, is QBank, okay? What is QBank? QBank is a unlimited amount of custom exams or practice quizzes that you can do, as well as an unlimited amount of simulated exams that you can do. I believe if you do a simulated exam, there are 140 questions, so it will be very time consuming. However, after every practice exam that you do, the most important aspect is to review your work. You want to go back in and study the reasons why, so if you do, my whole thing is take maybe 5 simulated exams, maybe 6 simulated, 7 simulated exams, if you want to make sure that you're really prepared for this test. And after you take every simulated exam, you need to review your work. You need to review your work, okay? So you will want to go back into the simulated exam, and it's going to break down whether you got the answer right or wrong, and it is going to give you a quick little explanation as to why you got it right and wrong. And so that's the most important part of taking these simulated exams and these practice exams, is to go back and double check your work. Find out why you keep scoring the same. Find out why you keep getting the answers wrong until it's stuck in your head, okay? Now, what I would also tell you is that you want to be trending in the right direction on these simulated exams. And so if you're me, I would go in, the first thing I would do is go straight into a simulated exam and just guess my way through it, get a basic understanding of this exam, and just see how I score. You might score a 40%, you might score a 60%, that's okay. You just want to get a basic understanding. But your goal is that before you take the actual exam, that you're trending in the right direction. So if you got a 60% on the first practice exam, and if you got a 70% on the second practice exam, hopefully by the 5th or 6th practice exam, you're trending, you're getting about an 80 to 90%. That will tell you that you are probably ready to go, and you're probably going to pass this test. And so you certainly want to be trending in the right direction in these practice exams to make sure that you're prepared to pass the real exam. The custom exams, you can take an unlimited amount of custom quizzes, as you would like. The custom quizzes are a lot shorter. I think the average quiz is like 10 to 20 questions, and so that will, at least if you're on a time budget, then maybe the custom quizzes is what you want to do. If you're not able to sit down and commit to a 140 question practice exam, okay? But the overall goal with these practice exams and quizzes is that this is the most important part. This is what's going to prepare you more than anything. If you're a learner, if you learn the way that I learn, is I learn through practice exams, and then if I miss something, if I keep scoring wrong on a certain particular question, I need to write it out and figure out, why do I keep bombing this particular question? Why do I keep missing this concept of a question? So QBank, most important part in Kaplan, in my opinion. And then there's also checkpoint exams. These checkpoint exams, they average about 20 to 25 questions per checkpoint exam. This is beneficial to go through as well. It's going to also break down the answers for you at the end of it, and so you will have a basic understanding of each unit. And I recommend going through that as well. And then obviously the reflection part is the most important part of prepping for this exam. Reflect on your practice exams. Reflect on your checkpoint exams to see why you're getting stuff wrong. It's going to break down the right answer for you. So hopefully that can stick and you'll be prepared. And lastly, there is this property and casualty insurance mastery exam. In my opinion, there's no use in going through this one right here. It looks like my employee for this one, he looks like he actually went through it and he passed it. Good for him. In my opinion, I don't think you need to go through this. I would much rather, because if you fail this mastery exam, it's not going to give you the answers. And so you're not going to be able to reflect on it. So this is unnecessary to generating this certificate right here. You don't need it. Now, what I would tell you is that instead of going through this mastery exam, I would much rather go through QBanks, where it breaks down the questions and answers for me, and whereas the mastery exam won't right here. So again, there's a big difference between this mastery exam and the certification exam. This one is needed to print your certificate. This one's just extra supplement. Now, if you're an overachiever, you just want to guarantee you pass this test, do it. However, I recommend QBanks. You know, it looks like my staff in this particular situation took the mastery exam, and he didn't do as many QBanks, but that's how I learn best. And if you're a slow test taker like me, I'm the worst test taker in the world. You know, that's what works for me is practice exams, and practice exams, repetition, writing every question, writing every answer down, so that way it sticks in my subconscious brain. Okay. So this is it. That's it. I mean, that's how I would navigate through Kaplan. That's how I encourage all of my employees to navigate through Kaplan. And we have a pretty good track record of people passing their very first time, or worst case scenario, their second time. Now, what I would tell you is that, you know, there are some people that it's a little bit hard of a test for them. The most important thing, I made another video on this, and the most important thing is to make sure you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort to pass this test. If you put in the work, you should pass this test. Now, some of you guys have other obligations. Maybe you're in transition from another industry. Maybe you're a full-time mom. Maybe you're a full-time student, and this is another test that you have to worry about. You just got to give it the time and put in the work. And of course, another tip that I would give you guys is if you fail this exam, it's no big deal. Just schedule it the very next day, and you should be able to pass it. You know, just take it. Keep on taking it while the content is fresh and while the material is fresh in your mind. And of course, the only time I would recommend against that is if you're just completely bombing the test, then maybe you need to, you know, schedule it out a week or so. But if you're scoring, you know, 70 to, you know, right before 80% and you're barely missing it, you're right there. Schedule it the very next day, take it, and you should be able to pass this bad boy. And the last thing I would tell you is, you know, the insurance exams are notorious for adding one or two words that'll change the entire trajectory of the question and the answer, and they'll even put the wrong answer there on purpose to try and fool you. When in doubt, read the question over again. Flag questions if you're unsure of it, and then also do never change your answers. You know, if you go back and before you hit that final submit button and you're waiting, you know, for that, you're just wondering if you passed the test or not, the last thing I'll tell you is don't change your answers. Usually go with that first gut instinct, and you know, usually that might be the game change. That might be the question that gives you the pass or fail. And so best advice is always go with your first gut instinct. Don't change your questions, or don't change your answers, that is, and you should be able to pass this test. So there you have it. That's leave any questions or comments if you have any questions for me, and any other further advice that I can help you with on passing this test using Kaplan. Kaplan is one of the best study guides in my opinion. I make all of my employees go through it, and I go over with them exactly what I went over with you today, and about 70% of my employees pass their first time, and so I think that you can pass it your first time as well. The ones that don't pass their first time, that will usually get it the second time. And so with that being said, I want to congratulate you on taking this step into the insurance space. This is a wonderful industry. Ever since I joined this industry 5 years ago, it's been the best decision of my life. I've experienced, you know, life-changing results, and it all started with passing this test. And so If I can be of any value to you, if you need any help, just drop a comment. I'll be happy to answer it. Be sure to smash the like button if you got some value out of this video. Subscribe and go check out all my other videos where I talk all things insurance, entrepreneurship, and self-development. Follow me on all of my social media platforms. And thank you guys so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Good luck on your tests. Peace.